I think a relatable thing also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita is that do your duty and not worry about the result.
Now, when you're dealing with neck, it is a disservice to deal with it only as a muscular issue. In fact, all of 2024, I had a hypothesis in my head. Anyone who came with a neck pain, I would assume they would have had a jaw pain. Sometimes people come with cervicogenic headaches. Sometimes people come with migraine headaches, which may look like a migraine because the spots are the same, but it isn't a migraine. If I constantly work only on the neck, I will only receive so much return on that investment that I have made working on the neck.
What I see today is when they have been going to different specialists, physiotherapists, sometimes neurologists, sometimes orthopedics and stuff like that, who are constantly treating them for the symptom, and we are not recognizing that the cause is coming from somewhere else.
Most of the time, what ends up happening is that our head is rested on the pillow, neck is never supported. On top of that, if your bed is not hard enough, or if it sinks, if it's too soft, you now have much of your body also sinking into the mattress and much of the head kept up. So the body is lower than the head is, which is a poor way of sleeping.
Hi Badri.
Hi Srivats.
Welcome.
Scrub Guru.
Yes.
How are you, Guru?
I am good. Well, it's so funny actually
Why
because
not?
we're wearing scrubs all the time. So
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Not a bad name actually.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
It was
a nice zing to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the journey has always been that to kind of explore different dimensions of healthcare.
That's
because
true.
I truly don't identify myself and relate to myself, nor do I want to die being a dentist.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you're much more than that. The affiliation I have with you, the number of conversations we have had with you, either professionally or even personally, I have always come away with, why is he a dentist? It's just like I remember calling you for on COVID. And I remember telling you, look, I have a whole list of medications that they have prescribed for me because I got COVID. And you said, don't take it. They're all for horses and cattle. You may be a cow sometimes, but you're not a cattle. So don't take it. But yeah, I've actually, it's amazing why you're much more than a dentist. You're significantly much more than a dentist.
Yeah. So even I don't relate to it because I don't see a profession for myself as a thing which should define me. I feel we are all as human beings multidimensional.
True.
And we never explore the other sides of it because we are also conditioned by the so-called society and family, friends, or our degrees that we hold, that we lose out on actually living our lives. You know, I go through a lot of trauma as well, frankly, because I have these, what should I say, ideas in healthcare. I have these different thought processes on how healthcare should be driven, how healthcare should be delivered, so on and so forth. But every time I've taken it to somebody who is there in the mainstream medicine, if you can say so, they all kind of are unable to relate to why am I interested at the first place. Second is, even for me to grab an opportunity to make a difference or change, the limitation is their view that I am a dentist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's impossible for them to accept that You don't need to be anything, but you need to be somebody who has a certain process of thinking to make
Correct.
that difference.
Correct.
Right, and I find that pretty intriguing because uh, uh, whatever you say, I've always been told that uh, probably you are not a specialist in it.
Yeah.
Where is data about this particular thing, right? But if you see, this morning I actually put it up on my WhatsApp status as well about how we are all being missiled into believing scientific information or data that is published in journals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're skewed.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're very skewed.
Right? And then we are all producing in the so-called supply chain of medical colleges and dental colleges, we're just producing cookie cutter burgers.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Which neither are fresh, innovative, tasty,
sure,
or nutritious.
Original. Yeah.
So that is something that we have lost. But if you see the entire ethos of human body, like I and you both are in the field of, let's say, healing. You're doing it for one area. I may be doing it for some other area, and somebody for something else. But what we are forgetting is the spirit of why we are doing what we are doing. And somewhere we have also lost this understanding that no two human bodies are similar. No
Correct.
two conditions are similar.
True.
And no two therapies, treatments, or outcomes are going to be similar.
Or even similar conditions have different manifestations in two different people.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's mutual, because what I relate to and why I enjoy those conversations with you is because there is that mutual reciprocation to look at the body holistically from you.
Sure.
Like I've had this terrific experience. Once I actually called you, I still remember I was somewhere near UB City, and I was in distress for 2-3 days for whatever reason, I can't recollect that. And I had a shoulder ache. And I picked up my phone and called you. Prior to that, I had met a orthopedic surgeon and stuff like that, standard stuff, do an x-ray, get a scan done, take these medications, do hot pack,
Sure.
and stop activity.
Sure.
But it wasn't giving me relief. But when I called you, the first question you asked me was, did you eat your meal happily? Right? And that is like, why is this guy asking me this question? Initially, I thought we're just wasting time because I am with bad shoulder ache, and then you're asking me, did I eat my meal with joy? And then you went on to ask me, how was your sleep? Then you went on to ask me, am I worried about something? Am I generally happy in life? And that question triggered, that actually is right, that I have been in distress for the last 2-3 years because a lot of us have begun to believe that having stress is a normal thing. Right after that day, many years ago, I started asking my patients this question, that a lot of people come to us saying they have jaw pain, all of this head and neck area pain and stuff like that. And we would look at their teeth and we would say that you have nothing.
Correct.
And you're totally fine.
Correct.
There's nothing in the teeth, that you please go and find somebody else.
Yeah.
And so the soul searching that the patient has to go through to find out the cause of his pain is going to be so hard, because each one of us are divided by specialties.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And what happens is, unfortunately, in the center of all this is this patient who is looking with hope that somebody is going to solve this problem. But if you look at what we are being produced as from this whole education system in medicine, is that we are all just people who have lost their intuition, people who have lost fundamentals of how the human body functions, and basics of the ecosystem of the life that we live in.
Sure.
And that to me is such a big bother, Because what I went on to discover after that was that all of these aches and pains are actually relatable to something that's probably happening in your head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why should I not be asking this lead question as a dentist to a person who has come to me with a pain around his jaw area?
Sure.
Asking him about stress, and 100% of the times the answers that I have received, yeah, doctor, I've had regular stress, in this age and time, everybody is stressed. Like, that was like shocker for me to realize that everybody feels being stressed is normal. And these are activities that you have to do. Just now, what you told me also before we came into this podcast was, you said that people are, like I asked you questions about financial goal and stuff like that, where you said, yeah, there are professionals who will give you a number and then you're just walking towards that number.
Yeah.
And I always told this to my students that the way you're all being educated is like you're a horse in a race course with blinkers on.
Yeah.
And you're feeling that unless you go ahead and run in that direction without looking at anything around you, that's your goal. But the thing is, ultimately, what does the horse want? It wants grass to survive, right?
Sure.
And it needs a nice environment to walk around. Grass is right there under its feet.
It's running over it.
It's running over.
Grass is always greener on the other side.
On the other side, right? So I have found this very funny on how we're all living our lives. And it would be wrong for me to say that it didn't bother me or it doesn't bother me, because when you see everybody around you doing the same thing, you sometimes wonder whether you are on the wrong side or everybody else is on the wrong side.
It's also it's a interesting question on vocabulary, I think. When people tell me they're stressed, I try to ask them, what is stress? And more often than not, they're explaining to me the symptoms of stress. Could be headache, could be shortness of breath, could be jitteriness, could be lack of sleep, could be distressed ocular movement, could be fatigue, could be tightness in the muscle. They're explaining the symptom. And then so I asked them, look, if you were to remove the word stress from the English vocabulary, but you would have to explain to me this phenomena that you're feeling of being stressed, how would you explain it to me? They're flummoxed by it because they don't know how to explain it. But then I have an interesting view on it. There is a stimulus and then there is a response. For every stimulus, there can be a response. And response can always be graded to a stimulus. For example, if I'm going to poke you and you don't like that poke, you will not bring your hand forward. That's a response to a stimulus of me poking which you didn't like.
Right.
If I continue to poke you, you would constantly increase your response, either in magnitude or in force. Now, if I poke you, you will put your hand back. If I come forward and poke you, you will go further back. If I constantly come near you and continue to poke you, you will probably run away from the building. The last step may be go to the police, file an FIR on me. One of those things will happen. But at each step, you are grading your response to a stimulus that I have given you. However, if on the first poke, you come and bash me up, that's a fairly unreasonable response to a stimulus. Or if you go file an FIR first up. Either which way, whether you do nothing or you file an FIR or bash me up, either which way your response is not commiserate to the stimulus. So it's okay for you to feel bad about it, no?
Yep.
Either guilty or I shouldn't have, or sympathy or whatever, for having responded in a manner in which the stimulus didn't deserve it. Now, if we take away our birthright of responding, like in a corporate structure, it's not possible that you go bash your manager up just because he called you. Look, I want to see you towards the end of the day. This he tells you first thing in the morning. Now the whole day you're wondering what's going to happen by the end of the day. So you have spent the whole day either breathing poorly or drinking tons of coffee or smoking. You have done everything else for a stimulus that has come your way, but you haven't responded. And this happens to all of us, right? So I think from a stimulus response point of view, if we can always gauge what our response should be to a given stimulus, I think much of our so-called stress or the anticipatory response that we live with will kind of subside. So you kind of feel better because of it. I think people should begin to understand. Like there is a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And interestingly, they don't get ulcers.
Okay.
So
Ulcers in the sense GI?
Yeah.
Okay.
At GI ulcers, one of the constant criteria for GI ulcers is stress, right? You stress, you have indigestion, blah, blah, blah. So the thing is this, when a zebra is grazing, it is aware that there will be a lion somewhere. But it's not gonna, I mean, it'll get up, look around, there is no lion, it can't smell, it can't hear. What do you think it'll do? Go back to grazing. While it's grazing, its ear is still up, but it's grazing. And then once it comes up, it kind of feels that there is a lion because it has got its waft of smell. It'll now alarm everybody and run 300 meters away from it. Does it got an ulcer now? Not really, because it has taken an appropriate response to a stimulus. Now, if the lion attacks, there are only two places for the zebra to go: run or kick the living daylights out of the lion. Now it runs, it is still responding to a stimulus, which is great. Therefore, it has no ulcers because it will escape. If the run failed and the lion caught up to it and killed it, who cares about the ulcers? Because it's dead. Right? So it doesn't have ulcers then also. On the fortunate circumstance that the zebra actually fights the lion and kicks it, and the lion gets hurt and runs away, and the zebra is free and goes to the next pasture, do you think it has ulcers? No. Why? Because it has fought it. It has done its bit. Now it's ready to feed. So if our response is constantly commiserate to the stimulus that we get, we are generally free of ulcers and the so-called stress. That's my thinking.
Yeah, I think a relatable thing also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita is that do your duty and not worry about the result. Probably that's about just being aware of what you're doing and being in the moment where you ask yourself this question: have I done my bit without being attached to an outcome? Right?
Sure.
So, like you said, if the zebra is there, there's no question arising. So, in fact, if it is clear of the thought and does its best in kicking the lion, probably it has 100% more chance of survival than thinking, what if I don't kick well and then the lion will eat?
Zebra don't think that way. It's I sometimes think we've got the bad end of the brain. I think we think too much.
I also feel, in fact, I feel there's so much to learn from animals. However much, colloquially, when you keep hearing a lot of people speak, especially from a spiritual perspective, they say you shouldn't become like animals. I think the examples have to be right there because I feel truly they live the moment.
That
And
is
look at
true.
the amount of love and affection animals have,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
One has to truly have a pet to experience it, I feel.
That is true.
And there's so much to learn from them.
Sure, sure, sure. Absolutely.
There's no concept of jealousy in animals, right?
I don't know about that. Sometimes I
Huh?
think there is. I have Kobe and Ivy. I can see
Hmm.
Kobe not being too happy if I'm cuddling with Ivy.
Okay.
He wanting to come and get his nose in to that cuddle.
Huh.
I can see. I don't think it's coming from, I think we have given it the vocabulary called jealousy.
Huh.
I think it's just coming from I also want it, give it to me.
Yeah,
Which
probably
is
that.
which is
Which is
okay.
fair, yeah.
Which is okay.
Anyway, so anyway, what I think we should discuss is ideas about certain pain points that we all go through. And I want people to understand your concepts because for the last 24 years that I have known and worked alongside you, I've seen that there is tremendous difference in the way you have approached pain itself, right? Physical pain we're
Sure.
talking about.
Sure.
And I think it'll be interesting for you and me to have discussions around specific pain points that we all and the people who are listening to us or watching us go through. And I'd like to poke neck pain today, right? So I feel it's one of the most common and one of the most important areas to focus on, especially given the fact that uh, there's so much amount of mobility now. There is so much amount of work. There is also so much amount of discomfort or adjustments that we do in order to keep our head in balance, because I feel neck is so flexible because it's supporting the head on top, and then there is this whole huge body below. Uh, so let's talk about neck pain.
Okay.
You
That's
know,
interesting. That's an interesting topic and an interesting, I think there is an interesting way of coming at understanding neck pain. Structurally, if you look at human body, head is about 2.5 kilos,
okay.
which is the size, which is the weight of a bowling ball, a 10-pin bowling ball. The brain in the head isn't necessarily anchored to a place. It's a flotation device. It floats in the cerebrospinal fluid. Then it has a fairly large neural structure that descends into the back called the spinal cord, which is attached to the brain itself, right? So now that brain has a tail that runs through your spine. But something, if you were to peel the skin off my neck and the tissues of my neck and really address the ligaments of the bone and really look at the human skeleton, you have a cranium that sits on the vertebral column, probably attached to no less than half the pinky finger width of a bone called the atlantoaxial joint, which is what gives us the rotation, the up and down movement, and the lateral movement. So it gives you a lot of mobility in the head, not a lot of stability. Now, the reason why you have, so, and like that in your body, there are joints that are alternatingly fixed towards stability, mobility, stability, mobility, stability, mobility. So your body by design is put together for some amount of mobility with some amount of stability. Now, neck, because of its anatomical structure, is a very mobile joint. You can turn your head side to side, you can move the head up and down. And to some extent, you can do circumduction, which is to rotate the head, although that's not prescribed. Now that you have this mass sitting on top of a fairly delicate joint that's about the size of my finger, pinky finger width, or slightly less than that, which allows for that kind of movement, you now have great musculature which is providing stability for a joint that is highly mobile. Right? So you have musculature providing stability for a joint that is primarily mobility oriented. Now, it's also a very proprioceptive joint. That is, it need not know, I mean, it is very good at finding out where it is in space without necessarily having to see where it is in space. You can close your eyes and move the head this way, that way, and you kind of still know where you are in space. For example, when you're playing football, when you turn to see where the ball is and you're still going that way, you have a great sense of proprioception. You know where the goal is without even having to see it. You know where the stairs are. Have you seen construction workers carrying bricks on their head?
Right.
They don't look down to climb stairs. They look up there to climb stairs. Their ability to sense their position on the staircase is so good, they don't have to look down to climb up because they're proprioceptively so good. Now the problems really arise. Then there is another thing. In your head, you also have a breathing apparatus, which is the nose. You also have a chewing apparatus, which is the jaw. So you have a fair amount of thing happening in a fairly enclosed space. But all of them are connected to this huge body through these pipes that we have. Right? The trachea.
Actually, yeah. Actually, neck serves as the junction.
Correct.
Where all the body's important things flow
Correct.
up and then connect to your.
Correct. Or come down.
Yeah.
What you chew goes down. What you inhale goes down. Right? So neck is a phenomenally complex organ, so to speak, or a place, so to speak, because it connects the head to the body. It connects your nose to the body. It connects your mouth to the body. And you have wonderful nerves like the vagus nerve running from the head via the neck into your ribs and the chest wall.
Okay.
Right? Which also control parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. Right? Now, when you're dealing with neck, it is a disservice to deal with it only as a muscular issue because of its primary role as a connecting body of what? Of the mind, of the air, of the jaw, to everything else that happens to the body. Because it's so mobile, it also is a place where you will figure what your center is and what your horizontal is because of that position. Like we have seen, I know you and I have worked quite a bit on neck and jaw issues, and we have seen that people who have a lot of neck issues tend to have a fair amount of jaw issues. In fact, all of 2024, I had a hypothesis in my head. Anyone who came with a neck pain, I would assume they would have had a jaw pain. That's just an assumption that I would work on. That's the hypothesis. And I would either prove it right or prove it wrong. A lot of cases you and I have dealt with have been predominantly to do with neck issues, but not necessarily neck as a cause.
Primary, yeah.
Jaw as the cause.
Yeah.
So neck is an interesting field in itself. So we tend to look at neck pain as, it's a purely muscular pain. It isn't. It's an emotional issue. It's a bite issue. It affects the breathing issue. So what we do with our necks is It's a phenomenally complex issue.
So, what are the most common neck problems that people come to you with?
Generally speaking, it's a very generic description that people have. I have pain in the neck. That means I can't turn from one side to the other. Or I have greater right turn ability, but limited left turn ability. Or they usually have a protrusion in the T1, C6, C7 protrusion area. Sometimes people come with cervicogenic headaches. Sometimes people come with migraine headaches, which may look like a migraine because the spots are the same, but it isn't a migraine. Some of those. Very few are non-workable cases like rheumatic issues, meningitis issues, where I don't have the capacity to deal with it, but they may have to go under medication, blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking, it is those.
So, is it true to believe that neck, as in neck by itself, may be only causing a limited amount of problem or pain, and most of the pain that we experience in our neck is related with structures around the neck?
I would say yes. Yeah, I would say yes. I'll tell you, if you have cervical spondylosis, sorry, yes, there is a disc issue with it. Yes, there is a vertebral column issue with it. But it has a cascading effect. One of the cascading effects with this is poor sleep. Another, poor breathing pattern. Three, it could be a pelvic position issue that is aggravating the neck, or the neck has now aggravated the pelvis. It could sometimes be an issue of the bite. Now, if I constantly work only on the neck, I will only receive so much return on that investment that I have made working on the neck. However, if I were to do some amount of work on the ribs, on the thoracic area, some amount of work in your breathing area, your neck feels much better. Why? Because what supports the neck is also being looked at. What we see today is people working predominantly with, in this example, only the neck.
Yeah. Actually, very interesting. Almost 100% of people who have either missing teeth, irregular bite, or oversized jaw, undersized jaw versus tongue.
Yes.
The space,
Length
the
of the tongue, position of the tongue.
Right.
Yes.
And a whole lot of dental issues which also include issues like grinding your teeth because of overthinking, stress, so on and so forth. Or even as simple as if somebody loses the height of their teeth because of this excessive grinding, can or will put pressure onto associated areas. And one of the most predominant complaints that they come to us with, when they think it's just a dental issue, but when we look at it, it's actually caused a whole lot of damage. So neck mobility issues, neck pains, headaches, shoulder pains, backaches, all of these things. So a lot of times your neck is affected just because of this. And unfortunately, what I see today is when they have been going to different specialists, physiotherapists, sometimes neurologists, sometimes orthopedics, and stuff like that, who are constantly treating them for the symptom. And we are not recognizing that the cause is coming from somewhere else. Simply a bite which is wrong in your mouth, which is genetic to you, that you're born with, or you have gone through braces
Yes.
which has not been completed well, or you have discontinued your braces somewhere
Yes.
in between and it has changed your bite,
Yes.
is a huge issue,
Yes.
or improperly finished
Yes.
braces,
Yes.
is a big problem which is going to trouble you with your neck pain,
Yes. Yes.
headaches, backaches, and
Absolutely.
all of that.
Absolutely.
Has that been an observation for you?
Yeah, yeah. All of 2024 was that revelation. I'm telling you, I think I have seen cases where really it has nothing to do with the neck. Neck is just a symptom carrier. Neck is fine, except their bite had to be better or their tongue had to be better positioned. So when we do tongue release work or TMJ release work or even cranial positioning work, they feel so much better. But I know where it's coming from. I can't just get them there and then say, now you're hunky dory. And you've seen that once you set those things right, much of the neck feels,
Better.
this is how it should be.
True. So, let's talk about a very common problem, which is sprain in the neck. You go to bed and then you just can't get up. Like if you're trying to get up, you're woken up with a
Stiffness
sprain,
in the neck,
stiffness. What causes that?
Pillow, I would say, first and foremost.
Hmm.
Either too high a pillow or too low a pillow. Most of the times, what ends up happening is that our head is rested on the pillow, neck is never supported.
I always think that there'll be some sort of a gap there.
Yeah, so there is, even you get those contour pillows, they're not wholly supportive of the neck. What ends up happening in bed is that when you lie down, initially your neck is not carrying the weight of its neck or of the head. Because when you are conscious and moving about, you have a certain inbuilt tension in your body. Otherwise, you can't hold it up. If you want me to sit like this, I have to hold some tension in my body. If you want me to walk, I have to hold some tension in the body. Holding tension is a great thing because it allows us to move. So when we sleep, when we put our head onto the pillow, the neck is still in tension because it wants to hold, because you're awake. But as you get into deeper and deeper sleep, the muscles are no longer available for holding that tension. So they also tend to relax. When there is no support, but there is only support on one end and support on the shoulder, neck tends to sag, which means that the vertebral column also begins to sag a little because the muscles are attached to the vertebral columns, right? Muscles are attached to bones. So when a muscle pulls, the bone also begins to pull. And these are smaller vertebral columns. So the push and pulls are real for them. That ends up happening, which malaligns the trachea, which therefore disturbs your breathing. Now, on top of that, if your bed is not hard enough or if it sinks, if it's too soft, you now have much of your body also sinking into the mattress and much of the head kept up. So the body is lower than the head is, which is a poor way of sleeping. That's one of the reasons. Two, we don't recognize, if you have a spouse that sleeps next to you, they will recognize if you clench or grind at night. And they tend to get up with more fatigued jaw and neck area because all night they have been working when the muscles have to be rested, essentially. Right? That's another reason for that stiff neck. Perhaps this second one could be the more common one because I think most people don't know whether they clench or grind at night. Another common one could be dehydration, just lack of water. We don't drink enough water. We just don't. Even the 3 bare minimum liters of water that we are supposed to drink, I think we drink it poorly.
It's either at one shot.
Yeah, you either drink 500 ml, 500 ml, 500 ml 6 times a day and cover up that thing, or you drink 1 liter in the morning, 1 liter somewhere in the evening, and before going to bed maybe a little bit, and then you will account coffee, tea as part of the hydration loop, which is it. So I think we hydrate wrong. Either we don't hydrate enough, or if we do hydrate enough, we hydrate wrong. That's another reason for neck stiffness that you wake up in the morning with. I would say those would be the primary 4 reasons why people wake up with
So
bad
let's
neck.
dissect pillow. Right? I've heard all of these theories, and I myself have tried, and I continue to try different ways to be comfortable, which is no pillow,
some pillow,
soft
thin
mat,
pillow,
thin pillow, thick
yeah.
pillow, contoured pillow, memory foam pillow. I've tried everything, but I'm yet to feel comfortable with any of these things. So at the first place, is pillow even recommended?
As a child, as a kid, you don't sleep on a pillow. As a baby, you don't sleep on a pillow. Pillow is somewhat necessary as we begin to grow up, because our skeletal structure begins to become wider and we tend to sleep more on the side rather than supine. So one of the reasons for a pillow is to support the head and the neck. But since the neck is the last thing that is being supported, we generally use the pillow for the head. The other, what I have found interestingly useful is if I were to roll a bath towel, a thick bath towel, if I were to roll it into a roll, into a cylinder, and keep it in front of the pillow, so where my head goes on the pillow, the neck is on the roll.
Understood.
And then the rest of the body. That I find to have had better results for lesser stiffness in the neck. I also generally ask people to roll the towel slightly taller than the pillow itself. So the pillow is this high, then I would like the roll towel to be that high. The reason being, once you sleep on it, and because you're putting pressure on the night, and because at night you're not holding tense, your body is fairly flaccid. So therefore the body tends to fall into the pillow or fall into the towel or fall into the mattress or sink into the mattress. So because of that extra pressure, by the time halfway through the night happens, the towel tends to resize itself to the level of the pillow, which means the neck is supported enough, even though it starts off being super supported in the beginning of the night. Over a period of night, it just sinks in and becomes in line with the pillow or slightly higher than the pillow, which still supports the neck if you turn to the side and turn to this side or that side, or even if you were to lie down supine face up, your head will be slightly at an extended position, which is not a bad idea.
I think, my brain is thinking about an innovative pillow design, wherein it's probably an inflatable pillow to different dimensions. So that different people can actually use that same pillow.
Idea.
No?
It's not a bad idea.
So it has this design of the headrest and the neck rest separately.
Sure.
So you can inflate the neck rest separately and you can inflate the headrest separately to whatever dimension and size that would
you prefer.
work.
Why not?
Isn't it?
Yeah, why not?
So I wanted to pick your brains on when should a person with a neck pain, neck mobility issue meet you? Like if they have to seek help, because a lot of times what we generally do is, okay, I have neck pain, you know what, oh nothing, last night I think I slept in a very awkward position, or I worked too much, I lifted some weights because of which this is happening, so I'll keep ignoring it or pop in medications.
Sure.
and obviously pain will disappear. But the problem remains. We
Sure.
never identify the root cause of it.
Sure.
So, what is that point at which a person must actually seek help from you?
Let's just understand what pain is. What
Hmm.
is a pain? Pain is a sense of discomfort that you feel that you can't bear with. Discomfort you can bear with a little.
Hmm.
Pain is something that you cannot bear with. So it's the higher graded of discomfort that you want to go away. I would say don't press the panic button. I would say do two or three things. One, hydrate.
Hmm.
Every hour, if you can drink 300 ml of water, great. Because that will take a few days for your body to feel good and hydrated, and you will see. Two, if you are predominantly waking up with stiff neck, um, see if you can, again, for the next couple of days or 2-3 days, if hydration doesn't help, then see if standing up against the wall helps. Because sometimes it could be a postural issue because you have an anterior tilt of the pelvis, therefore the neck is positioned badly. Um, Third, I would say if the neck pain doesn't go away and the pain continues to persist around about the same level that you started with, it hasn't subsided, I would say check out an orthodontist first. I would say that. Primarily because it could be a jaw issue that is becoming undeniably a neck issue. If the pain tends to waver up and down, having hydrated, having stood up against the wall and improved your posture, if that is helping you, then I will see you. But having seen an orthodontist like you, someone who looks at the TMJ and you think it is a TMJ and that needs to be addressed, then we'll address it. I would say go down that path, but don't press the panic button and say, I will do MRIs and I will do pop the medication. In fact, allowing you to relax, for example, sleeping on the floor. Yeah, that's another thing that I would say. Sleep on the floor. With a pillow, without a pillow, doesn't matter. Just sleep on the floor and see how that feels. Many a times what happens in a day for a human being? They basically punish the body doing a certain kind of work. If it's a manual job, then it is manual in nature. You're a construction worker, you're lifting things, you're carrying bricks on your head. And usually those guys are fairly good with the neck. Because you can't have a forward head tilt or a posterior head tilt to carry bricks on your head. Like in Rajasthan, when they keep a lot of water on top of their head and then they walk, how do they do that? Because of great neck control, right? Sleeping on the floor usually helps because it aligns the body better. I would say do those things first and then address the issue.
So, what are your tips to anybody on how to maintain good neck health or neck musculature, or preventative? Like, how can we prevent ourselves from getting into this mess?
Okay. Few things that I will say not to do, and then we'll come to the prevention. The not to do is a prevention in itself.
Sure.
Okay. So this, the head tilt, the lean back and scroll or read. That's bad news. That's horrible news. Because remember, the head weighs 2.5 kilos, and every half an inch or an inch that it moves forward, the leverage itself adds weight to the head. So the head no longer is 2.5 kilos here. It's 2.5 kilos there on top of your neck, but next to your chest, it's not 2.5 kilos. It's about 50 kilos. That's how much force the head feels on the vertebral column. This is a very poor position to hold. Two, that you think you have supported the neck because there is one sofa cushion at the back. The back feels good. My lower back though is thanking me for not sitting upright, and I feel good. And I'm held it to my eye level, which is also good. But that's not a good thing for the neck because it pushes the jaw forward. It doesn't keep the jaw in. Right? Two. Three, when you're standing and doing that, that's also not good. Four, when you're sitting down on a laptop or on a PC and working, but your head is in, or you're watching TV, but your head is in, I mean, the neck is out. It's almost like you want to go into the screen to see what's happening there. That's not good. So all of these things they're very preventive by not doing it. So there itself you have prevention. Actively, what can you do? If you can sit upright or stand upright, jaw clenched, tongue on the top palate, but not clenched hard, just teeth touching each other at the back, the molars touching each other at the back. That holds the head in a position where the neck doesn't have to do too much. The massive neck musculature that you see on people is not what is holding the head on the neck. There are very small muscles that are holding the head on the neck.
Correct.
And there are 4 or 6 of those. And they're on really at the occiput and the atlantoaxial joint area. They're tiny, both in girth as well as in length. And they're the only ones that hold that head there. Why does the head not require too much? Because it's such a mobile joint. You don't want so much. You just want anchoring positions that are most effective. And that's where they are. That's the occipitalis, capitis, brevis, etc. All of the other neck musculature that you see are holding the neck on the shoulder. Even though some of them attach into the cranium itself, they're essentially giving you neck movement, not head movement. This movement is a head movement. The yes, no is a head movement. Much of it is a neck movement, which is where your trapezius comes in. You also have musculature which affects your breathing, which is also part of the neck. Right? The first 2 ribs are connected to the neck by musculature. So therefore, breathing is part and parcel of neck rehab, so to speak, which we don't do.
We're all shallow breathers.
We're all enormously shallow breathers. In fact, if you can get the lung to become voluminous, your neck and your back will be eternally okay.
Interesting.
I would say those would be the preventative things. First of all, not doing those.
So what is the most common habit that all of us today as human beings have is phone.
Yeah.
Mobile phone.
Yeah.
So now it's practically impossible to tell somebody that don't use it.
Correct.
But what is the other way? Like, what is the right way or the most comfortable way that somebody should adapt to using a phone? In case of
Get
texting.
the phone to you. Yeah.
So basically, you're saying that we do this and not this.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. But then if you do this, if you're a pretty little girl sitting opposite me, you'll be thinking I'm taking a video of you. But what to do? I'd rather you think that than screw my neck, no?
Right. Maybe use a sticker on your camera.
Sticker on, why not?
So, and what about while using phone to make a call or receive a call, most or all of us are holding the phone and either having our head tilted, and second is we're all perpetually in hurry, right? So even I tend to do that, right? So you're working doing this, or you're having another bag here, you have something on your shoulder, and then you're holding your phone and going, opening the door, or your head is tilted to one side or the other. So what's your advice and take on that?
Don't. Don't. You don't save so much time, man. What time are you saving? 1 second here, 1 second there.
It's
Finish the
like we're
call.
trying to go to Mars and Moon now to do the same shit that we did on Earth.
Of course.
Isn't it?
Different place, same shit.
So, yeah, that's, I think, so true. So, is there something, or rather, let me rephrase this, is or are all neck issues 100% reversible, or is there a certain damage once done becomes irreversible?
There are certain damages that become irreversible, but most neck pains are reversible too. Most chronic pains are reversible.
Is that right?
Yeah, most chronic pains are reversible. It's the movement that caused it in the first place. Recorrect it, recalibrate it. I have a fundamental belief that body as a system is enormously generous in forgiving our poor movement pattern. It will accept a lot of poor movement pattern before it begins to evolve to keep pace with it. Once you recognize that you have screwed it up, if you begin to show it the right path, it will return to that right path. So much so that I say chronic pain, recovering from chronic pain is not a mountainous task. It's perhaps the easiest thing to do.
Wow.
It's not the most difficult thing to do. It's the easiest thing to do.
Amazing. That's so much of relief to hear this.
Yeah,
I think you should be google.com.
Google.com.
Because all of us tend to go and Google, I think, and get scared because any pain is directly cancer, or any pain is directly some irreversible condition. Go do these tests, go, right? And I think there's a whole industry built around it.
And also, if you look at how people search and what people write to search, you see a lot of anxious searching. The search itself is anxious. So it's not surprising that the results that comes out also feeds into that anxiety. You have to understand how does a pain evolve into a chronic pain, and how does chronic pain behave as an organism, and how do you take charge of that organism to bring you back to a homeostatic, no pain living. That understanding has to happen, and most people get caught up in not having that understanding and not enabling that path of recovery.
Wanting quick fixes.
Wanting symptomatic fixes.
Symptomatic fixes. That's the right word. Yeah, you're right. Actually, a lot of people whom I have met have been on neurological medications, have been diagnosed to have migraines, have been diagnosed to have spondylitis, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, it turns out that it's a dental issue. It's actually that they don't have the right bite. They either have traumatic bite, deep bite, or they have a missing tooth. There's a wrong bite on the back.
Even if they do have a spondylitic issue concerning the neck, you can still look at it and say, what is the behavior pattern of a spondylitic neck? How does it behave? How does it evolve into being so invasive in your life that you begin to have radiating pain down your fingertips? And how do you address that cycle? Intelligence and perseverance lies in that. Your recovery lies in that. Understanding that and addressing how do I break that cycle, and what do I need to do? If you show that path, body usually aligns. Because body's intelligence is not to be in pain. It's obvious, no?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Its innate intelligence is not to be in pain.
Hmm.
In fact, it does everything for you to not feel pain until you do feel pain.
Hmm.
It adapts, it evolves. Just because you have a bad habit of pushing the head into the screen to see what you're seeing, it won't let it be like that. It'll adjust your pelvis, it'll adjust your ribs just to keep you there. Right? Which is why you don't get neck pain the one day that you look into the screen. You get neck pain 5 years after having looked into the screen. What has happened in those 5 years? Body has adjusted to it.
Nice.
Body has made compensations for it. When it no longer can make that compensation, when you have pushed both the local joint as well as its supplementary joints and supporting joints to their limits, and it no longer can hack it, it then says, screw you, I will press the button now, you have pain. So now you feel pain.
Unbelievable. I think we are not appreciating this body of ours doing so many things for us, and we are not appreciating how truly it is supporting us each day, and we hardly do anything to take care of it.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Including me, getting tempted each day to go eat something that's
Sure.
probably unhealthy, not giving this body enough due activity that it desires to be fit. Right? It's like you have a pet and you're continuously feeding junk and not even
Sure.
taking it for exercise and walk. It's
Sure.
precisely what we are ourselves doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Lovely, Badri. This was great
Thank you.
to be speaking about neck, and you're never a pain in the neck.
I really wanted to be one. That's sad.
So lovely chatting with you, mate.
Delightful.
And so yeah, let's continue this. I think let's talk about some other pain point the next time we catch
I'd
up.
love that.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
lovely.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Cheers, mate. Scrub
Thank you.
Guru.
Thank you.